Welcome to the Revenue Room podcast, where we explore strategies and insights from CEOs and revenue critical C suite executives who are leading businesses in the information, data, and experience economy. I'm your host, Heather Holst-Knudsen, CEO of H2K Labs and the founder of Revenue Room Connect and this podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Jerry Lee, co founder and CEO of Gradual, a community platform. Jerry is a serial community builder and a technology leader who started his career as a software engineer at Amazon, where he quickly rose to lead engineering teams building scalable systems. He later joined Groupon as director of engineering for orders, payments, and accounting. But what sets Jerry apart is his passion for community. He founded ELC, the Engineering Leadership Community, which has become the world's largest network for engineering leaders and executives. What began as small in-person gatherings evolved into a global community, and during the shift to virtual at the start of the pandemic, Jerry turned the tools he built for ELC into what is now Gradual, a commercialized community platform that can serve any type of business. Today, Gradual is the all-in-one community platform empowering connection and growth for companies like OpenAI, Perplexity, Fiverr, Scale AI, and Siemens, helping them build community-led ecosystems that drive revenue and unlock collective intelligence. And just a fun fact about Jerry, before his tech career, he actually was pursuing a PhD in geology. Welcome, Jerry, to the Revenue Room.
Well, thanks for having me, Heather. I'm really excited to be here to share my experience with community building and technology and what's the future of business.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we met through Jill Rowley, who is one of your advisors. She and I were
Yep.
talking about Revved Up, and she said, you must meet Jerry and see his platform. And when I saw it, I was wildly impressed. So super excited to have you here myself. What I find so incredible is that you were, at Amazon, you were at Groupon, and then you said, "Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go build my own community platform." Which, by the way, being in media and events where we all talk about community, building your own platform is really hard. Yeah. So, can you tell me a little bit about how that engineering leadership um, built the foundation for you to then be able to say, "I'm going to now build my own community platform"?
Yeah. It's all started as my personal pursuit of I want to be a good leader, but I feel that the way I learn about leadership is so slow and expensive. Literally trying everything that I can, try to rise to the occasion. And I feel that's essentially experimenting on people. And that, make me feel bad. I still have some of the um, bad mistakes I made in the early days being a manager that are still haunting me today. But that what makes me to really want to learn with other people that are doing the same thing because essentially all the leaders and your leaders, we're all coming from a technical background, but we're dealing with very similar people and organization problems. But we all pretend that we're the only one. We're in silos and not communicating. So I was desperate looking for a better way to learn by tapping into a kind of collective knowledge pool of with other leaders and wasn't able to find anything despite this tech center in San Francisco there's hundreds of if not thousands of meetups. And then also my early journey as a engineering leader showed me the way how powerful it can be by simply, connecting people to find, match the best talent with the best project or match the best person to want to learn with someone that are willing to teach. So that mutual willingness and readiness to connect is so powerful they can change lives. But yet those connections are, unless they're intentionally made, uh, those are rare. So there's a lot of potential in this world, in our industry, by simply making the right connection, and great things happens.
No, I couldn't agree more. And you actually said something really, I mean, you said a couple of things here just in that first, response to that question, which is one, learning to be a great leader or just even good, is long, it's expensive, and it's I would say because I feel your pain. Like I have those same memories of, oh my God, had I only known, I would have been such a better leader. I wouldn't have that terrible experience. It's painful, you know. So if you have a cohort that you can tap into, either to learn to be, preventative or help look back and learn from it, I think that's you're right, it's very hard to do that, and, you know, LinkedIn doesn't do that, it's doesn't serve that purpose, and you can't wait for live events to happen, and you meant that leads me to the second important point you made, and I'm actually curious about it because you live in an area where there are thousands of meetups. Like, the ecosystem is hungry for meeting and networking, but yet that didn't it didn't solve the problem. Why is that?
I think it didn't solve a problem because the conversation around leadership is hyper personal and it's very context driven. You can find a lot of really good learnings. This are the 5 things you should do as a first time manager. This is the 10 things you should pay attention to as you navigate organizational change. But it's really hard to land those suggestions or implement them in a real situation because every team is different, every individual is different. So there's a lot of contact that are needed in order to lay out the perfect solution. And the ability to, or the opportunity to chat with someone just to do gut checking and have a sounding board, that's immensely meaningful because a lot of times we don't know what we're doing. Really, like if you talk to, I was astonished when I talked to a lot of engineering leaders. Some are really established at companies. If you ask them really the very basic question, what's their role for engineering leaders? You'll be really surprised. They get very different answers.
Mhm, mhm. So it's what I'm hearing is, you know, it's too serendipitous at these meetups to find the right person or people to connect with to help you on a like peer-to-peer led growth, right? To bounce ideas off of. It's just it's not curated enough.
It's not curated enough. It also events is not enough. A meetup really good for events. You get to meet with people, and then what's next? So
True,
how do I
true.
keep in touch with the person that I want to um, really have a deeper conversation? Because the initial meetup is great for initial connection, but the real good
Mhm.
stuff is continue to nurture that. Yet
Yep.
we don't have the right tool. You can do it if you're really, playing hard. You take notes and you be very good at following up. But the technology that really make that easy.
No, that's a great point. So it's like one side of the problem is okay, you go to an event, it's not curated enough. Okay, so you but let's say it is curated enough. What's next? Where do you go? It's by the way, this is a massive problem with the events industry in general. And in you do this huge buildup for a 3-day event, let's say, but then when it's like literally the balloon gets popped on day 4 when everyone goes home, and then it's like, "See you next year." Like, I need to see you, like, next week. So they need to have yeah, I totally agree with you. Um, so the the next, how is because one of the things I also was really excited about when we met is that you have this tremendous background in engineering. So it's not just that you're creating a platform for engineering leaders, but that you actually have the skills, the software development skills and understanding of UX, everything to create a fabulous customer journey and member journey within the platform. How has that served you in the building of Gradual?
I think we are very lucky to be in the position of having the strong need to build something that we want. We clearly know what we want, but also have the ability to, and also the skill set to actually build it out and experiment without requiring a lot of external support and capital. And I think that's just pure luck. And I talk to so many Indian community builders. When we show them the product, they feel the same need. Oh, this is something I want to build like years ago. Just that I don't know how to get started. So it's
Mhm.
not a very innovative idea. Just that we are happen to be in the right spot We feel the pain, feel there's a need. We also have the right team to actually make it happen.
No, that's okay. So one is everyone says they want to build a community. Everyone says they want to launch a newsletter. Everyone says they want a media brand. Everyone wants to launch events. Everyone thinks they can do all these things. That business is actually, that is their core competency. But even for companies, the way I say media and event organizers who have massive audiences that are highly engaged if they're good at what they do, um, they haven't been able to cross the chasm to say, my audience deserves more than a 2-day event. My audience deserves more than just content and blogs on my website. And I have this power, by the way, because I have this audience, but for them to take that leap into community is very difficult. And why? Because it requires something that's not their core competency, which is the engineering, the ability to build it themselves, because they've never had to, they don't build software, right? So you were able to do that. And what I'm curious to dive into is that so you have this vision for ELC, you quit your job of going all in, and you must have learned a lot though yourself, even though you might have this incredible development team. The vision that Jerry had, you must have been like, wow, I didn't know what I didn't know as I'm going through this. And are there a few of those light bulb moments as you built ELC?
There's a lot of them. I think the fact that we are being ourselves being engineering leaders and building community for people like just like ourselves is that alone is very very helpful. And being able to see the pinpoint and being able to resonate with them and literally spend to this day we spend our almost 10 years building that community. So a lot of mistakes and a lot of learnings along the way. So that gave us really deep insight into what, how to get, what's the real value, the most exciting part of the value of community. Unfortunately, the value are not on the surface. So the real value is that's after a lot of effort being made, both as an organizer, but also the commitment from the members, then they get the good part. So, for example, earlier we talked about Meetup. There's a lot of Meetup in San Francisco, but real communities are rare still. And that's because getting people together, great, but even you and I met together for the first time, I don't know what to talk about. There might be things that we can help each other out very nicely, and we can go down a very deep conversation. But how do we get started? So without that initial kind of getting initial things done in the right way, it's hard to get into the really good part. And we happen to run the community that are we have a lot of introverts in our we're engineering driven, but they 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 like network, but they hate networking. So how do we get to the part that they enjoy? Well, oftentimes when we do, uh, are in a group with peers, the right set of people talking about something they care about. It's hard to stop them. So we had to chase people out every time I do a meetup event, but it's just hard to get to that part. People don't like to just on the surface socializing, say hi, and it's really hard for engineers.
No, so when I launched this community called the Manufacturing Leadership Council, which had engineers, so I know the engineering function quite well. And I was going to ask you that. I'm like, how you're getting engineers talking? And I love your statement. They like the network, but they hate the networking. Um, it sounds like what you and this I think also is a concern for media and event organizers who say they want community is, okay, well, what are they going to do? How do we get them engaged? And we used to have this triangle, right? At the top of the triangle, what we called our power influencers, are like people loved it and were there and loved being seen. And then we had our lurkers who were underneath, who they were the people, they liked the network but didn't want the networking. And then we had what we called dead zone, which they signed up, but somehow they're not engaging. And But we weren't smart enough at that time to do what you're talking about is, okay, yeah, you're gonna clearly have dead zone and lurkers always, but if you can actually keep pushing the conversion into active, right? You don't have to be super active at the top, but active, and you're giving them value. You need community managers. You need people that are helping to facilitate the connections because, as you said, you and I met each other, but would you know what to talk about? Like, what are ways that you can facilitate? So you not only have a community, you actually also do events.
Yeah, we do a lot of events. Our in the first few years, we did nothing but just events. So we're touring across many different tech companies in the Bay Area up and down, and we're hosting events at different companies and on different topics, event speakers, etc. So it's literally just one event after another event. But
Mhm.
what are from very beginning, there's a few things we're really careful about is who we should invite, who should let into those events, because early on it's easy. Nobody knows us. Nobody want to. You know, we don't have a lot of noise. Only people we
Right.
want to invite, they get to know. There's a good, very concentrated audience, the right profile. But as we get more attention from the outside world, there's always people that doing recruiting, doing marketing, the startup CEOs, right? So they will try to get into those meetups, and it would be very clear about who this is for. So this
Mhm.
is only for engineering leaders. If you're not an engineering leader, we respect your interests, but we also currently don't have a way for you to get engaged. We may provide that opportunity down the road, but not right now. But and that is one of the secret that keep our members feel protected and they
Mhm.
feel building trust over time because every time they come to our event, there's no person they talk to that are not doing what they do. Every single one of them. So that is a great way to build that trust. And
Yeah.
what's funny about that is not only build trust with our members, the people were rejected that you cannot we don't wait for it to come in. The fact that we protect our members get them even more interested. Oh, that's great. How can I when you have an event, can I be a sponsor? Can I have help? So um people knows this and people
Yep.
cherish that fact you are standing out for go a long way to protect your members' experience. And they know that creates a great community. So I think that is a very surprising insight that we collected along the way, but it worked really well.
So, like, we're building our equation now for successful communities, right? So, community manager, and I kind of skipped over what that person does, but I want to talk about that. Two highly curated events. But you just three, part of the secret sauce is sticking to the mission and the vision of the community, that it's for members and by members and not to deviate. I've seen many communities fail because they couldn't stick to the original vision and started letting in consultants. Like, let's say it was for, I don't want to knock consultants. I'm a consultant, but yeah, people who are trying to sell their stuff. Um, I think it when you feel like your community is no longer about you and it's you're being, sold to, or like it's a commercial endeavor, that's when you have the churn. You get very high churn on they don't want and it's very hard to get a community member back once they've left. It's a very hard thing to it's a very hard churn to recover from. So, what does a community manager do at Graduate? Like, well, for ELC, we're talking about ELC, and we'll differentiate that after this question.
So on day-to-day basis, what do we do is, so we, for the first few years, all we do is think about what good event we can put together. So that
Mhm,
include elements like, what are the topic people want to learn, to hear about,
mhm,
and who are the best speaker to talk about that on that topic, and what format should we organize the event? Is event it has um, if you think about it, how do you grade people as they come in and what they do after that? When you introduce the speaker, and I think the structure or the agenda of the event informs what values people can get.
mhm.
Because oftentimes people want to get multiple values or different type of value from participation, in-person participation. Very expensive in term time commitment. So they want to connect with other people, and they feel connected, right? That's like making a sense of belonging. They feel seen and heard. So they want to get insights that they're very hungry for, that they hard to get elsewhere. So that's something they're very concrete, more insight. And they also want to sometimes be able to look for tools, processes, things they can leverage right away, right? The book, or it's a new piece of software, or someone they can talk to. Like sometimes it involves who is a good coach, right? A consultant even. So they're always looking for ways they can take away from the event, and then we always think through all of that to engineer and design the experience so that there's multiple ways they can get a value from the event. That means even if they had a better conversation, or the insight they got is not as fresh as they hoped, but they get other values instead. So they never disappoint. It's hard
Hmm.
to being entirely disappointed by coming to the event. So that if you do that event, keep that high bar of in terms of quality. That is best way to build trust. It's very slow, but
Yeah.
um, it's we sometimes need to go slow to go fast. So if you are showing up in the right way every single time, people knows that, they appreciate that. They will tell their colleagues. They will tell their other people in their network. So oftentimes after one event we had, the next day there's 20 people joined from a company. Remember that there's one time after the event, I think 30 or 40 engineering leaders from joined us. Oh, where does this people all coming from? And then it turns out one person joined our previous event is shared with the internal team on Slack, and everyone joined the community. So that's essentially the only way the only growth channel we have is word of mouth. People had a good experience, they tell others, provided that there's strong need. There is a strong need. Engineering leaders are very much underserved. There's no resource. They People don't recognize their need. So with that premise, we provide great experience every single time. People will want to tell other people because they want to help other people. I get help. I want you to get help as well.
Hmm. Hmm. So those are some really incredible points. One is events fueled the growth of the community because the events, and that's why I launched Revved Up first before the community. I would not launch the community I needed to build trust, and we need to continue to do these events, but it is a slow process, and events are not very scalable. But they're critical and important to the process and to the business and the product. The second is when you say community led growth, it is truly community led growth. It's like this is people telling other people. It's the word of mouth aspect and truly understanding how that works, and that you're tracking actually that, okay, these people came to the event. Oh, by the way, look how many people from the attending companies just joined, let's say within a 30-day window. Um, and then the other part is the underserved community side. Everyone's looking to serve, when you look at media and events, the community that has got the most perceived budget to spend, because they can then have that dynamic of, you know, advertisers or sponsors or exhibitors that match to an audience. But the world doesn't operate that way so much anymore. And there are influencers in businesses that, and also there's discrete budgets, but there's also just the power of the community as a whole. And your example that you brought up earlier was we have CEOs, startup CEOs pounding on our door, trying to get into these events because they want to recruit. They want the best talent. We don't let them in. So you create fear of missing out. They know you protect. So now they've got to pay their way in to get to them. So there are angles For our listeners, if today's conversation about data driven media and AI powered platforms resonated with you, I want to invite you to join Revenue Room Connect, our professional network for CEOs and their revenue critical leadership teams leading businesses in the media, data, and experience economy. Please visit www.revenueroomconnect.com. Did the community come first? I.e., did you say, I want to build a community for engineering leaders, and in order to do that, I'm going to build this platform, but this platform is just going to be for my community? And then it evolved that, wow, we built something that can be commercialized? Or was it always that I'm going to build this platform for this community, but I'm going to build something that we can sell right off the bat?
The former. So we never thought about this is something going to be so broadly applicable outside our own community until very late in the game. So we start the ELC community started in 2016, and the first line of code of Graduate was written 2016. So we have been building for a long time without even knowing that it's something that could become a platform down the road, which actually helped us because we zero focused on just doing the thing that people need. There's no effort wasted by building something we potentially think about use cases that don't exist yet. So and that give us the focus really and able to iterate. We built a lot of features that don't like it, so we learn a lot over time, and it's actually take a lot of time to be able to show to people. Not this is not just another thing you do. You need to download or you need to log in to do what just one. Um, it's actually you do this, but almost immediately you get a lot of value out of it. But get from nothing to that point, that took us almost 6-7 years. Keep building that.
Mm-hmm.
This explains why there's very rarely can find platform that can do so many things. Because it just
Yeah.
takes the amount of time to build it. Not just effort, but also find an error, the learning.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one thing that struck me about the platform is the combination of both the community functionality, but also the event functionality, because if events are so intrinsic to community, having those embedded with one another is really critical just from a tech stack and a data standpoint. And was that something you thought of, or was that something that transpired as you started saying, okay, we're going to commercialize this and sell to clients like OpenAI?
Um, it kind of gradually, well, we were intended to build a all-in-one platform, very modular from the go,
Hmm.
with our inside building our own company, but it didn't until later and then we realized, oh, actually, there's a very strong use case for almost any type of business. They want to not only the core product or service, but the whole experience, um, which include how people get to know your product or service, how they build trust, and how to get nurtured and supported along the way so they are successful extracting value from the service or product you're providing. And all that, a lot of those interactions and engagement happens outside the core offering. Yet a lot of people don't realize that's something you should own or that you can own. And what we built for ELC in early actually happened to be the right, um, almost perfect fit for that use case.
Hmm.
And then we start to really optimize on like building integration with Salesforce, with all the other tech stack that people normally use for B2B, B2C companies.
Yeah. So just as a side note, we have a couple events on Gradual right now on our platform, revenueroomconnect.com, which is powered by Gradual. And we have this invitation only event called Revenue Room Salon that we're doing in New York in October for female leadership. Um, but what we are doing, which I'm saying, okay, this makes a lot of, as people are registering for the event, I've created the community aspect for them. I'm not opening it up yet because I don't want them to get tired of that. I want it to be exciting, and we like open up maybe a month before. but it'll be open for them after, and they'll have experienced this very intimate event that we're hosting, but then they can continue the conversation. I don't need to have another platform for that. They don't need to go to another platform for that. All of the usage and data that's going to come for that is going to be there connected to HubSpot so I can see how it's working. So, that's a very powerful value prop right there. So, with that, let's go to your customers right now. I'm going to talk about your big corporate guys, so like OpenAI, Scale AI. What are the top? And those are pretty huge communities. I think I've been checking them out, and so what are the things that when you and they were negotiating this partnership? What were their top things they wanted for their communities when they said, "This is what we need from Gradual. This is what, these are gonna be the top 3 must-haves," and, did you have them, or did you have to build them?
Yep. It's actually a journey with almost every of our customers. So they first have an initial need about around community. In case of OpenAI, their initial need is to, as you know, they have the for-profit part of the company, also the nonprofit part of the company. So, and their original need, and about 2 years ago, is to making sure they build the right product, right model for
Mhm.
the humanity by involving some of the best researchers, the best practitioners, different areas, so that it's more around influence and thought leadership, right? And facilitating discussions among the top researchers, and so that where insight can be generated to guide the product development part of it. So that's essentially how we got started building the community. And this service about roughly 200 people, and they're really high caliber professors from MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, and even a few Nobel Prize winners. So, and from there, they essentially do the same playbook. Virtual event after virtual event after virtual event, but they always share content afterward. They always make sure people get fresh insights, even for people that are that high of a caliber. They are willing to commit 90 minutes on a regular basis after work, like during pretty much during dinner time, or personal time, to have very engaged discussion and conversation. It's hard to pull off, but they were able to make it happen repeatedly, and that built the trust. That built kind of the flywheel and get word of mouth. So now it's a massive community. They do a lot of programming. So going back to the business, that's their first application of
Mhm.
community. They've seen exciting success. So, for example, one of the many things they have the value gain from community is they landed the first enterprise sports team as their customer through someone that they engaged through the community as a speaker at one of the events.
Wow.
So that was very exciting. It's also new to the company. Realize, well, actually, community, if you do it right, it's massive. They see the potential, and now after that, over time, the concept community as a way of go to market as a way to build business become more polarized within the company. And then when the right time came, then we want to build a champion community. Like those are the people that are responsible for implementing the technology for a large organization, right? So we may want to make sure that they are empowered with the most up to date knowledge, the best support, so they can be successful promoting the product within their own organization. So, and they took a community approach to nurture and help support those people, get them in early. I feel like this is for them. And then from there, they expanded to even broader, a bigger scope of community operations through Academy. Open Academy is the AI literacy program for anyone in the world, literally, to want to learn about AI. And that's their most recent community, and there's more coming. So I can't share yet. But but you can see that it's a not just one epiphany moment that a company realized, oh, we need to go community. Let's go all in. It doesn't happen like that. It's one more established use case, maybe small sometimes. Go from there because community it takes time, but if you get it right, you start a very powerful flywheel, and will show you value in many different ways, and that led to the second one, the third one. But once they're in, they as more part of company, they, well, they buy in the community idea, uh, it's tends to grow, and it's a long game, and that's why we name a company Gradual.
I was going to ask you about that. That's awesome. Okay, so it's a lot. Community building is a long game, hence the name Gradual. I love that, but I love the story about OpenAI too. Just that it actually started out with a very specific use case, with 200 top, researchers for them for product
Yeah.
ideation, development, etc. And then they just started doing more things that brought value, added more components to which expanded this community they have today. And from what I understand, Gradual's just launched an e-learning module. So
Yep.
is that so that you can do these types of courses to help community members accelerate their learning. So it's yet another functionality that you have embedded into Gradual that you would not need to go out to another vendor for. And so, um, no, that's a really great example of how to approach community too. It's don't try to boil the ocean. Figure out one tiny problem you're trying to solve. And that goes for media companies too, or event organizers. Doesn't mean we have to have a community for all, 1 million of our, database. It's maybe you have a very, really great event that's 300 people
Yep.
and they love going to that event. And it's your best, like highest retention, but they need another way to connect. So launch a little community, see how it goes. You know?
Yeah. One of
Um,
the favorite quote I like, is what if, that's something I heard from Tim Ferriss, his podcast. It is, what if it's easy, right? Asking that question. So for building community, if you apply that, try to find places where people are already very hungry to get connected to each other. They're waiting to do it. They can add a lot of value right away by just connecting them, and they're just simply not being connected. If you can identify those and providing the stage and doing the work that needed to get them connected and build that initial, despite sometimes small community, and that is the magnet. You'll find that, and that will lead you to maybe a broader use case almost every single time. And
mhm.
eventually, I think the power of community is very relevant to the audience. Like media companies, people in the media business, is that community start from like essentially like the audience, but um, become a community. But a lot of community has the potential to become an ecosystem. So they tie back to when you mentioned earlier that as a consultant or as a startup CEO, you see the value of community. You're not a core audience, but there are value, that legit value you can add for the people in the core audience in the community.
Mhm.
Just that the way you facilitate those connections needs to be more intentional,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
because this is what we observe in our ELC community early days, that once we start building trust with people, people want to naturally, okay, do you know who is a good coach? Do you know what a good company I can join next? Do you know a good candidate? Or do you know a better tool that we can use to replace our existing tech stack? So people naturally will have those need. Each of those needs can be met by intentionally bring a curated vendor, you know, consultant or individual that can meet their need. So as long as you make those connections because they found it, and this is a reaction of their need, then it's okay. It's good. So
No,
that's why I
absolutely.
see that paths for the community become a ecosystem.
Well, that ecosystem construct leads me to my next, few questions. which is really the commercialization or the revenue model around community. Because while certain businesses may not need to have a revenue model around it, they need community as part of their GTM, their customer strategy enablement. Other businesses may need and want a revenue model. Now, I'll specifically reference the media and event businesses that I work with. Um, Community is a great way for them to engage their audience 247, 365, which is becoming more and more critical for them as AI is disrupting how they're acquiring audience. So they need to build relationships with their audience. So there's clearly value there, but they also need to replace and add revenue opportunity that they're losing right now with reduction in ad clicks and visibility and all of that, but also, more scalable, repeatable revenue in the form of like membership subscriptions. So there's that one side of the revenue model. And then there's the one that you know well, because you sponsorship for events, which is how do you get the ecosystem in there in proper ways where they would pay to have access to this wonderful community, high quality community that you've built. What are the things that Gradual has planned to help with the commercialization on the community side?
There's a few things. There's more kind of feature related that are things to optimize experience. And there's also the more transformational things that we're introducing. So um, in terms of commercialization, today Graduate does have the ability to allow you to charge and monetize on events, so workshops, conferences, etc. And those can be event. I mean, depending on how the definition event. I've seen customers using event as a model to charge for annual membership. You essentially add everyone's attendee, and there's different way you can go about it, but that's the current monetization with support. The other way is, I think monetization essentially at the end of the day ties to value creation. The ability to payment is just part of it, but as long as you can creating value, people they can go beyond their way to pay, right? To through invoices or other ways. From that perspective, the value we're graduates adding for that is to make it more coming from the value we're adding more coming from the individual in the company. Because being an all-in-one platform, there's only one profile a member need to maintain and keep it up to date. And then through all the different opportunities, the community can add value to this individual, whether through event, through content, through connection making. The more you inform the community who you are, what do you want, the better you will be served. It's actually you helping yourself get more value from the community. So, and that's a fundamental shift in terms of how things are done today. If you look at everything get done, that people promote, like you want to acquire customers or finding talent. The default, people does a lot of outreach, creating a lot of noise, and we're coming to a point that becomes it's a versus cycle. People no longer pay attention to those messages. They fed up with all the noise, but now the moment you have people's attention, they tell you what they need. The equation is flipped. So every time you go to them, you give them something they already wanted. The message will be, well, I'm inviting you to this, event, to this dinner or webinar because you told us so. And however, if that's no longer the case, then just simply go and update your profile. We're no longer going to send you, connect you with the experiences and events like this way. So, and they're very forgiving once they see, oh, this is for me. And essentially, why this tied to the value creation down the road is that once you know what they need, it's actually fairly easy for you to connect them to either something they already offer within the community or partners you have already within the broader ecosystem, like a potential sponsor, providing a tool, providing services, consultation, etc. So, and that becomes very natural. Now you earn the right to make those connect those dots. And as you make those connections, value being unleashed, released, and then you get paid. And people are willing to pay. Like you help me to get a lot of value mutually on both parties, and they're happy to make it, your community sustainable and pay for whatever that you want to charge. That is reasonable.
Okay. Well, we're running out of time, and we didn't get to half the questions I had for you. So I did want to ask this one because, of course, I have to, which is obviously AI related. So how do you see AI evolving how the community operates? And do you have things in your roadmap that will use AI to help improve the community experience for your members?
Yeah, definitely. I think right now is the best time to build a community and also be participating in communities because the what AI can bring to the table is one, it give you instant answers. That's knowledge, that's connection, that's things you want within the community. Now by feeding all the information to it to AI, right? So that the cost of being is almost zero now. And second is we believe the ultimate community experience is everyone has an agent that just knows you what you need. And also as you involve your need, it knows you as well. And then also at the same time, link to all of the entire community to look for all the things that can bring value to you. And once you have that agent, you don't need to be in the community all the time. The agent will bring you back when something happens relevant. So that
Mhm.
literally, just like your Hollywood star, you have an agent that this agent look after all the things for you. And I think that becomes finally feasible now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, funny. I invited Tim Draper, to speak at Revved Up in 2026. I doubt now I know what's going on. And I got this great response like, absolutely, it looks great. Then I see him post on LinkedIn that he has an email agent just for requests. So I was like, that wasn't it. But he's got an agent. All right. So we're going to wrap up. This has been amazing. I like to wrap up with some, what I call rapid fire questions. And and actually this one, the book club idea. So we always ask favorite book, but that actually I got from you because we want to start a book club on Revenue Room Connect. But what is your favorite book? It can be business or personal.
So one of my favorite book is Extreme Ownership.
I love
So
that
as the
one.
name says, that it just literally two words capture the whole concept. I think it's very powerful and it's very practical as well. That by assuming different scope of ownership, it changes how people look at things. It changes the perspective. So that thing's
Yeah.
really powerful tool to have, or at different stages of it.
No, I actually read it a few times and it's sitting on my windowsill actually. And I'm like, I haven't read it in a couple of years, but I actually need to read that. I think it's one of those books that you have to read up like every 2 years. I need a jolt, like get back into this extreme ownership mentality because we can get lazy. I love that. And my last question is, what's the most unusual and or interesting place you've ever traveled to?
That's a hard one. Not as Europe, but a very interesting place I went to, has special meaning to me is Bali.
Oh,
The so we what makes it special is that I got my diving license before I learned how to swim. So that was a test for being able to trust uh, the coach, the
mm-hmm.
gears, and myself, knowing that there's a lot of risk. So, and I think that me to the conclusion that a realization that being able to trust is its ability, is someone's innate skill set that if you can trust, then good things can happen. And especially for community building, you need to have that mentality of, willing to trust, willing to, assume some risk. That's really important.
That scuba diving before knowing how to swim is the ultimate trust testing community. It's like, where they make you fall back and the person that's
Yeah.
like 100x factor more. So, Jerry, this has been absolutely fascinating. For listeners who want to learn more about Gradual or connect with Jerry, we're going to put Jerry's LinkedIn URL in our show notes. We'll also put the URL to Gradual there. And if you actually have any questions about how Gradual works from a media, an event, or any type of community perspective, please reach out to me at H2K Labs. We are actually using Gradual. And by the way, we're taking Jerry up on all his tips. I've got 5 pages of notes right now. And he has a great team to work with. For listeners, if our conversation today was interesting, I'd love to invite you to actually join Revenue Room Connect at www.revenueroomconnect.com. And for those of you who know about our event Revved Up, we've secured dates March 23 through the 24th in St. Pete, Florida. And this is where we bring the best minds, the best CEOs and C-suite leaders in media and events and any type of data information business. So until then, we'll see you next time.